Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Karen from Women in Midlife, and I brought in a doctor to talk to us today and to help us understand menopause properly. So stay tuned, subscribe, and like my channel. Good morning, Dr. Jaya. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Karen. I'm good.
Okay, so let me give a little introduction to the audience. So, as I understand, you have two jobs. I don't know how you do it, but you have two jobs. One as a teaching professor at Monash University in JB. Am I right?
Yes, Karen. I'm actually an academic staff here at Monash University's Clinical School in Johor Bahru.
Okay, and as well as working with IVF Center in Medina, JB. So, can you talk to our audience? What's your daily routine like, in brief?
Okay. Good morning, all. So, again, to introduce, my name is Jayanthi, and just to give you a bit of a background information about my qualifications, I got my MBBS from University Malaya way back in time. I went on to get my membership from the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and worked for many years and subsequently developed an interest in reproductive medicine. So I actually also have a master's in reproductive medicine from the University of New South Wales. So that's my education and working background. And yes, I also work as a consultant in the IVF Center at Gleneagles Medini. Right. As for my daily routine, it's pretty standard: up early, either off to work or out for an exercise. I enjoy running and swimming.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, I want you to help us uncover this mystery of menopause. Now, we both have gone through it. Your experience and mine similar in some ways, but as well as our bodies changes. There are so many things that happen. So, especially for younger women, I also noticed my younger friends having symptoms so much earlier than most. So maybe you can explain what are the symptoms, what are the telltale signs that we should, maybe go to the doctor already.
Now that you've mentioned younger women being affected, we can kind of divide menopause into natural menopause, which is what most women go through, and it does not really need much of an investigation or an underlying cause, as opposed to primary ovarian insufficiency. That means getting menopause before the age of 40. So that requires investigations. But today we'll be talking about natural menopause.
Okay.
The thing is, the average age of menopause in Malaysia is about 50, 51. Slightly earlier than the West, where they tend to hit menopause about 52, 53. So the symptoms can actually start much earlier, up to 5 years earlier.
Okay.
So you will see women saying that, hey, my cycles are still regular, so I'm not menopause. But perimenopause itself is around menopause. Menopause, by definition, is 1 year since your last menstrual cycle, the last time you had menses. So if it's 6 months before you had your period, that means you're not menopausal as yet. By definition, you're still perimenopause.
Right.
So you wanted to know what the early signs and symptoms. Before cycle irregularity sets in itself, women will start complaining of heavy periods. That's one of the earliest signs. Periods become, although regular, it becomes heavier. So moving along, as you approach menopause, the cycles become shorter. They become shorter before going more prolonged. So it's heavier, cycles get a little bit shorter, and then they start spacing out. But as you have also said, no two women are alike. But the general consensus, that's not how cycles go. along with the menstrual disturbances, which is the classic symptoms of menopause, up to 80% of women, the remaining 20% are very lucky, up to 80%, which is the vast majority, have the symptoms of hot flashes.
Yep.
Feel very hot, very uncomfortable, and more distressing is the night sweats.
Yes.
You start sweating, you feel hot, you blast the air conditioning, and a short while later, oh my God, it's so cold, you drag the blanket, you cover yourself. And if you have a partner or a spouse, it can be very disturbing for the person who's sharing your bed as well.
Yeah.
So that's another classic thing that they tend to feel. And those things, right, result in, if you don't rest well at night, the next morning, you're not well rested, you're very crabby.
Yeah, yeah.
And that kind of...
it's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yes, it exaggerates your mood, your irritability, because you're not sleeping well at night. So those are really the classic symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah, and then further, as you know that first we have perimenopause, then we have the early menopause, which is up to 5 years from menopause, and then the late menopause.
Okay.
Most symptoms that we have, the hot flashes and these night sweats, right? They tend to disappear after 5 years or so.
Right.
In the late menopause, other problems start setting in.
Okay.
The vaginal dryness starts coming in, painful intercourse, your bone pains, and all those other things start setting in. So the first 5 years tends to revolve around the vasomotor symptoms.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, if it's your body naturally does this progression. Now, there are some women who've had hysterectomies, and that is, so would that kind of, all these stages will kind of escalate much faster?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we are talking about natural menopause here. You do have surgical menopause.
Yes.
Surgical menopause is when you undergo a hysterectomy for any reason, be it fibroids, whatever reason it may be, and your ovaries are removed simultaneously.
Yes.
Right? So in the yesteryears, about 20 years ago, even if you're 45, you undergo a hysterectomy for a benign cause, chances are they would remove your ovaries as well.
Yes.
But now we tend to conserve the ovaries up to 50.
Right.
Because if you do not have a risk factor for ovarian cancer and it look good, why remove an organ or a pair of organs which can give you so much of benefit?
Right.
So that's surgical menopause, and that's very drastic.
Yes.
Today you go into OT with fully functioning ovaries, you're bathed in estrogen, and the next day you're totally deprived. So definitely you'll be feeling the symptoms a lot more acute.
Okay, so that would be like in my case I had, and so there was something that nobody told me, that I would have this symptom in such a short time, in such quick. Yeah. So the thing is, when it has to do with depression as well, because I went into a pretty dark space, and it was I felt lonely, and it's combined with not having sleep, so it's like a combination of things and all that. What would you advise women in that stage? What can they do?
All right. So as you rightfully pointed out, it's a combination of factors. So if you reach, not only you, any other woman in our age group, right? So if you reach that point in time, there are many changes happening around you.
Right.
Your children would have left to study, left home, they've gone to either study or work in a different state, and other women may have gone through a divorce or potentially lost a partner for any one reason. And
caring
others
for elderly too, actually.
And others, aside from all these factors, have caregiving duties for their elderly parents. These are all multifactorial, and when you lose your estrogen, there's no doubt that estrogen keeps us happy, right? So, with all these combination factors, you can go into a very dark space. especially if you are susceptible, right? So some women brush it off, or perhaps the relatives around them brush it off. Oh, it's just menopause, it's okay. But I would advise to seek help and seek help early. There are treatment options, not necessarily hormone replacement. Of course, estrogen does a lot of benefit, but there are other things like SSRIs, SNRIs. The doctor can help.
Yeah, definitely. I do advocate, and you're right. The reason I wanted this conversation is I wanted an expert like yourself to tell the audience that it's okay to look for help, because I know too many women, or where maybe they mean it as humorous, where they say, oh, it's okay, it's just menopause, don't worry about it. And then you get into that space, and you it's beyond your control per se, and that's something.
It's interesting that you say people try to inject humor into it. I don't know, if you go Google, you will see the 7 dwarfs of menopause. It's a caricature.
Okay.
And people like to put it up and make it into a laughing matter, but I don't think it's a laughing matter.
No, I totally agree.
This is a real problem that all women face. If you're lucky enough to hit the age of 50 plus, all face this, and I don't think it's a laughing matter.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Into the discomfort that we have. So, you should just Google out later the caricature of the 7 dwarfs.
I'll put it in the description below for the audience. And I know you're a busy woman, so I won't take up too much. But 2 last questions is, number 1, what explains the weight gain? Because I know you're fit, you're swimming, you're running, and I am too, but no matter what, you can't shift the weight. It's terrible. It's like everything is just around your tummy area, and it adds on to your anxiety, because you still want to look good, you still want to be presentable. So how do you explain that?
Okay, just to put things into context, right? We are aging, and naturally there are changes to our body. A 6-year-old car won't perform as well as a 3-year-old car. But in preparation for menopause, if you have a younger audience listening in, start changing your diet early.
Okay.
By the time you hit 40, 30, some people, right after childbirth, if you've decided you're not going to have any more kids, start looking after your health. Exercise. Walking is excellent. I know that in Malaysia, the weather, the humidity is not very helpful, right? Exercise, change your diet. But having said that, you also need to go for your health check. Our thyroids, women's thyroid starts to decline in function after the age of 35. If you have clinical hypothyroidism, that would also disrupt your sleep, cause weight gain.
Correct.
Get that checked. And I would like to take this opportunity to tell all women, please go for your mammogram. Go for your mammogram yearly after 40. We cannot use Western data because, for instance, in Australia, screening starts after 50 because their incidence of breast cancer is much later. In our population, 40 plus, many women get breast cancer. So I would implore whoever is listening to go for your mammogram every year. Pick it up early. It takes almost 3 years before a cancer cell actually grows to a size that is palpable. So catch it early. Right? So moving along, as for this menopausal belly fat, it's tough despite how much you exercise, right? And that's because of the lack of estrogen, number 1. It shifts the fat distribution. So when you are younger, you have enough estrogen, fat gets deposited around the hips and the upper thigh. As we age, the lack of estrogen, the fat is deposited preferentially around the tummy. And you actually have to work a lot harder. Diet plays a very, very important role. And we being Malaysians, we tend not to like
exercising.
Building, that's one. And if we exercise, we prefer aerobic over muscle strengthening. Resistance training, but those are supposed to help. Building muscles help fine. But I do agree with you, it becomes a little more difficult to lose the belly fat. So the way I look at it, embrace the body changes.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to tell the audience, say that you do everything you can, but also accept that the body will change, and the body and so we just have to change our fashion wear a little bit and adapt to it, isn't it?
Adapt and adjust, embrace it.
Yeah, totally.
We should celebrate the fact that we have already lived into our 5th decade and beyond.
Correct. Okay, so one last question, which is about vaginal dryness. I think, I don't know if you can agree with me, is that I feel that sometimes why marriages break down at this stage is also because there's no more intimacy, and not every spouse can be understanding, and that it's very, very painful, that there's no more, even if you want, your heart wants, but the body is just not willing. So I would those lubricants and all those things, would that help or not at all?
Okay, you have rightfully pointed out again, the lack of intimacy leads to marriages breaking down, and the lack of understanding from the spouse as well, right? So vaginal dryness is a real thing.
Yes.
Leading to painful intercourse, it's a real thing, right? So if you do not have enough intercourse because of the dryness, it is actually a cycle. The more intercourse you have, the blood flow to the vagina increases. That kind of maintains it.
Oh, so it's a chicken egg situation.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a real thing. Malaysian women generally are averse to hormone replacement therapy. Perhaps it's a conversation for a different time. So for those who are averse to hormone replacement therapy, you can start with vaginal moisturizers.
Okay.
And that's to keep it moisturized, and additionally use lubricants during intercourse.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, that would help. But of course, a vaginal estrogen cream would help a lot more.
Right.
Because that's right. Aside from moisturizing, it protects the vaginal mucosa.
Okay, great. Okay, that will help. I hope that will help, because there are women who are asking about this and they a bit shy to bring it up. So
Find a friendly doctor who will actually listen to you.
yeah.
Many doctors do not discuss this, so
No.
find a doctor, whichever state in Malaysia you are from, who will actually listen to you, because the lifespan of a woman has increased remarkably. And we are probably going to live through menopause for 30 plus years.
Correct.
And the changes are going to be drastic and progressively worsen. So talk to your doctor. Discuss. Each, no two women are alike. You might have different risk factors compared to me, right? Worse off risk factors.
Yeah.
So discuss with your doctor. But in the meantime, exercise, eat well.
Diet.
Don't forget your pelvic floor exercise. That would help with those who have stress incontinence.
Okay, I'm going to put a description on the pelvic floor exercise, and just to confirm, it's the Kegel exercise.
Yes,
am I right?
that's it.
Okay, so I'm going to put that description down and with a video for everyone, and you can just do this even when you're peeing midstream and holding it, or even sitting or driving. So do that so that you it's also to prevent the urinary incontinence, correct? Yeah, okay, yeah. I've been learning so much because I was prepping to make sure that I asked you all the right questions. So I thank you so much. I know you have to go and start your rounds already, and I thank you so much for educating us, and I hope that you'll come on board again and educate us more.
Perhaps we can talk about hormone replacement therapy down the road and remove the element of fear from it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jaya. Bye.
Bye.